Turn this up here. Okay, can you hear me now?
Trying to figure this out, people.
All right. It's episode
All right.
episode
Let
3.
me see here.
Now I am on the YouTubes.
All right, Cody. Now I'm having a tough time hearing you.
You can't hear me?
Not really. I can't hear you. Adam said he can hear you.
Okay, what about
I
now?
don't know if he can see you or not.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's just barely. Hang on a second. Man, we are having a heck of a day with this.
Technical difficulties.
Back out again and join up again.
Okay.
Man, we are having a heck of a time with this one tonight. Cody's having trouble getting in. Can't hear him.
All right, I'm back.
Man, what the heck? I still can't hear you. I can barely hear you if I go like this up to my phone.
Why is that?
You don't have earbuds connected or anything, do you?
No, I mean I have a charger plugged in. Let me unplug that. Okay, what about now?
And I don't have earbuds that I can use because my phone's plugged in.
Test 1, 2. Does that sound better?
Chat, AI, video, unmute.
Do you have me turned up or turned down on your phone?
What is it?
Your phone turned up?
Oh yeah, it's all the way up. You there?
He can see and hear
Oh,
us.
I can hear you now. For some odd reason, I can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Here, let me see something.
I don't know what the heck that was. Adam said I
Okay.
can hear and see you both.
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I don't really know what happened there, but everything good.
I'm guessing. I'm just checking on the YouTubes.
7 watching now.
I think we're good now. Man, that was a fiasco.
Right.
Jeez.
That'll be a topic itself in the future. Again, when we move to Florida and open our own studio, do this full time.
Well, I mean, it all comes down to is it worth it to, invest a little bit of money into something, if it grows,
Yeah.
sure.
I don't think I think Yeti, I don't know if they still do. They used to make those really good, like the snowball microphones and get a little pop filter for it so you don't hear doesn't sound like you're breaking people's eardrums when
Right.
yeah, that those aren't bad.
I tried when I first started the Zoom calls to use my wife's old DSLR camera, and it was just old enough to where it wouldn't allow it to work with the Zoom program on the Chromebook or laptop. I was like, ugh, that sucked. Lawrence, what's up, buddy? Lawrence Bell in the chat. I like Lawrence. He's a fireball.
Move my phone that way. I can now see the chat. Okay, great.
Yeah, I always just pause the video on the YouTube and then you can just follow along that way or whatever. But okay, well, let's go ahead and get her started. We got a couple people in here, which is okay.
Yeah.
We always start out slow and then we'll get a few coming in here and there. All right, welcome to the Winning Side Podcast, episode number 3. I am your host, Billy Collins, East Ohio Arm Wrestling. We got my co-host, Mr. Cody Smith.
That's me. How's it going, everybody?
Yeah. What do we got? West Ohio Arm Fighters. Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing. It's starting off pretty good too. Last practice was me, Niles, Doug Allen, and Drew Authorson. Drew is the unit. Just gonna take a quick second to show some appreciation how much horsepower that dude has. Once he figures this whole arm wrestling thing out, and I mean like the efficiency from the starts and
Yeah,
the center of the table to ready to go, he's gonna be a problem for sure for any super heavyweight in the area.
for sure.
Um, yeah, we had some pretty heavy hitters at the last practice. Pretty good showing. As you guys can see, I'm still recovering right now. My right arm's a little beat up. But yeah, still all in all, pretty good practice. It's our second one so far. We are having them every Saturday at 11 a.m. at to noon 30, somewhere around there. Just depending on how long guys want to beat themselves up. And that is in Tip City,
Well,
Ohio at Hybrid Strength and Fitness. So
beautiful. I was getting ready to make sure you shouted out the host there.
got to shout them out. They do great things. Not only letting us arm wrestle there, letting arm wrestlers come in and pull free admission, and also just helping me out and supporting me with my arm wrestling career as well. So huge shout out to those guys. Huge shout out to Dave there at Hybrid Strength and Fitness.
No doubt.
Dude's awesome. So
Alrighty, I shared the uh, link to Facebook also. And let me see if I can share it to the East Ohio Arm Wrestling group. But this laptop is running really slow tonight for some
it just must be
reason. Dude, I'm telling you,
a great day for it.
the devil is trying to attack me, and it's not going to happen because he was
Don't let it.
from the beginning defeated. Okay, so I think we're good. Yeah, that's a lot of horsepower, man.
It is. I'm definitely still feeling it for sure.
You remember how we talked? I think it was last one, or obviously it's one of the last two about the benefits of not having practice every single week.
Yeah.
You know, it is very beneficial just to get that blood flow and uh, you work on a little maybe like setup kind of stuff or whatever. But man, is it hard not to go? Yep,
It
yep,
is.
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
You got to stay disciplined. And I think it's the hardest when you're training, because if you're training in the gym, you're getting stronger, you're practicing consistently, and then somebody shows up who you haven't pulled with in a while. It's hard to kind of sit there and have that discipline and say, "Hey, I'm not going, 100% today. I won't be able to keep that same consistency over the next, 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, whenever your competition is."
Yeah.
So it's definitely, a struggle there mentally.
You with what you have coming up. I mean, you're going to have to get your training in.
Oh yeah.
The time.
Yeah.
So it's understandable that you would go as hard as you can, and or specifically uh utilize the strength that you have in a certain time period, I mean, with the pullers that you
Yeah.
have available to work with. So
Absolutely. I've got about 6 weeks until I pull Brandon. That gives me about four more practices, four solid practices. And right now, once I get down to, the second to last practice, I'm going to be going super hard. The practice after that's going to be kind of, if, a walkthrough, if you will, just kind of making sure everything is clicking and also not beating myself up too much to where I'm not recovered. Even giving myself 14 days going into a high level match like this against Brandon Elsesser, I'm going to have to use everything I have. It's going to take every little bit of strength. I'm going to have to be super dialed in. So I want to be perfect, as close to perfect as I can be.
real quick, um for everybody watching, um, Mr. Cody Smith, my co-host here, he has a left-handed 220 match against Mr. Brandon L. Sesser himself. And this is go ahead and for the audience, go ahead and give the name of the venue if you can, the name of the venue,
Yeah.
the event, when it is, the times and stuff.
Um, so it is JJ Jackson's event up in Rochester, New York. I don't know the exact venue name off the top of my head. It's on the flyer there. There's a tournament as well. It is MAC rules and MAC table. JJ Jackson being an affiliate with the MAC there.
Here, I forgot we got laptops right in front of us.
We do. We do.
Okay, so it is March 29th.
Yes.
Starts at 2 p.m. The super matches. It's Cody Smith versus Brandon Elsesser, left hand, best of 5. It is at East Ridge Billiards, 529 East Ridge Road, Rochester, New York, 14621.
Yep. That is it.
Uh, what is it? Easy Rollers Arm Wrestling. And what does it say? Something Battles of Rochester. Can't really read it. But so it's JJ Jackson's event, and are they using the Mac table also?
Yep. So MAC tables, MAC rules, you got a 10 by 9.5 inch pad. They are not staggered. They are straight across from each other, but you have a lot of, you have
I
a
mean,
lot of field there to play on. So
football field there to work with.
yeah, I mean, you don't really need them staggered. My
No,
personal opinion, I think, I could argue that it might even be safer to have straight pads if you have that amount of space to move on. Um,
what was your have you ever pulled on one of those tables?
Not a Mac table itself, but Drew Arthurson was kind enough to make some 10 by 9.5 inch pads and brought them to the last practice. So I'll be practicing on that until I pull on it. So I will not be pulling on staggered pads
Yeah.
until after this match for sure. So
Well, this is one thing that you got to definitely keep in mind. Brandon's going to have an experience on those specific
a
tables.
lot.
He's pulled on those tables probably a half dozen times already, if not more.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he practices on them when he can, and he's pulled a couple or a few different matches for the Mac. Um, so I know he's very well, uh, adapted to that by now. As of I haven't. So it's definitely weird when you have that big of a field, to move around on. It's a completely different, ball game there.
Do you know about what the rule set is for Mac?
Yeah, so they have the rule book posted on Facebook there. Uh, I would have to go and read through their rules to give you all the specifics. I'm pretty sure if you pull up the MAC, they have their rule book listed there. They do a WAL style, which a lot of the Northeast not competitors. What am I trying to say here? A lot of the Northeast promoters, when they run these tournaments, they like to run that WAL style set grip. Close your thumbs, close your hands, go. So that's and that's something I am familiar with. I have pulled that way a few times, a couple different super matches that way. Um, Changes things a lot, of course, when you go throwing in a bigger pad.
Right.
And even what I'm training on is not a Mac table. It is, still it's still one of Drew's tables. He just, made some bigger pads for it. So that helps me with knowing how much room I have, how far back I can hit, but the pin pads are probably not the exact same. The height's close,
Well,
but it's
I would
probably not
the
perfect.
the the level of the top of the pad where your elbow touches. I would assume that's probably the same, if not
Pretty
very close.
close. I'm pretty sure. I talked to JJ Jackson about it, and I talked to Drew about it. I don't know the dimensions offhand of what a normal table is. Um,
I think it's
but
40 inches to the top of the table, and then you have either if
inch and a half pad or
one
something.
table, then it's a 1 inch pad. If it's a 40-inch table, then it's a 2 inch pad.
Yeah.
think it's
Okay, that sounds right.
I think it's 42 inches to the top of the elbow pad from the ground or the platform where you're standing.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm looking at Ian Carnegie's Facebook. I'm trying to see if I can.
And just for anybody wondering, some people might not think it's that big of a deal. Um, I highly recommend if you're ever going to pull on a different table under different rules, et cetera. I think you need to practice how you play. Um, you're never going to be able to create that same situation of what you're going to do in competition. But getting as close as you can is always better than not. So that's why I'm pulling on the bigger pads. I don't think it's going to be, I'm not going to feel like I'm right at home.
Okay, I found him.
You
All right.
found them?
Yep. Mac rules. Okay. I'm assuming you have these. Did you save these whenever they popped up?
I did. Yep, they're in my camera roll.
Okay, good.
That's something we've been drilling a lot. Um, Again, trying to do everything I can to be prepared. Kind of a short amount of time to prepare for this, but
Nice 3 pound clothing allowance.
that is nice.
Yes.
I think that is for the tournament or for max super matches. I don't think me and Brandon are. I mean, it's a 220 match, but I don't think either of us are doing anything crazy for weight. I think as long as we stay around like 220, 225, within that range, we're good. Not being crazy strict on it, which is great. I'm very thankful that Brandon's not making me cut all the way down to 220 strict and drive, 7.5, 8 hours along with that.
Yeah, it's tough.
I'm pretty close to it anyhow, but being able to drink an energy drink and maybe eat a Reese cup on my way down there or up there was, preferred. So that's nice.
Yeah. Okay, weigh in stuff on the first one. Best 3 out of 5. 40 seconds to report to the table when called.
Yep,
Use
that's
the
it.
40 seconds. Competitors have 40 seconds to report to the table when called. I'm assuming this is for the tournament too.
Yeah, I think they try to align all that around the same, and then of course use the context clues if it's a super match and figure out what rules apply to what. But Jason Robinette said, "What's up? How we doing, Jason? Jason's looking strong. Jason's
Oh
been
yeah,
training pretty hard.
what a beast! J-Rob's such a beast.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see what he does this year. I'm looking forward to see what a lot of guys do this year. I love starting a new year off within the sport. You see a lot of crazy things at the beginning of the year. You see some people on fire. You see people start going on tears, and it's awesome. I love it.
It's pretty interesting. I mean, it looks pretty much standard, standard rules. Like you said, the only difference is just close your
Set grip.
that grip.
The set grip is the biggest thing for me. And at practice, I've been drilling a lot of ready goes. I like doing ready goes at practice. I don't like doing that all day long. I don't like beating up training partners, but I do feel like you got to practice how you play. So if you want to get proficient within the ready goes, you either pull a lot of tournaments or you practice that way. And it's a little safer to practice that way with people who you can trust to not destroy you or do anything crazy that can get you hurt. So
Yeah. Always another thing too. Listen to your body, man. If your I just learned this in December. If your wrist is hurt, got pain, don't push it. Don't push your body harder than it can handle.
yeah, it's
I,
not a Rocky
I was
movie.
like, oh yeah, it's always painful, and now I'm just like, boom, sucker. And now I'm out for 6 months.
Yeah, I think coming into the sport with that Rocky mentality of training through the pain and just biting down in your mouthpiece and just pushing along. I think You know, that
It's
that was
dangerous.
a movie
It's
that
so dangerous in this sport
super dangerous.
because, it's such fine, small tendons and ligaments in your wrist and stuff. Man, I tell you what, man, that something can go wrong real quick.
Yeah, the sport is heavily reliant on staying safe and keeping your connective tissue healthy. So I think hydration is also a huge, and I say that as I'm drinking a rock star. But I think hydration is a huge key to just staying injury free and being able to recover well. Which is why, as far as cutting weight goes, I don't recommend a lot of newer guys to cut weight. I just tell them to spend a year pulling tournaments, pulling practices, getting familiar with the sport. Be
Yeah.
healthy. The best thing you can do. I don't care if you go in there. Say you're a 200-pound dude, you want to cut to 198. No, go in there at 202 with a gallon of water in your stomach. Like be hydrated, feel good.
Hmm.
You don't risk injury that way. When you see people start cutting massive amounts of weight, it does so much to your body, and it's not really worth it unless you have a real reason to. And a lot of newer guys hate to say this, but you don't. You don't have anything to prove to anybody when you're new to the sport. You
No,
just need to develop yourself and establish yourself, and
it's a.
consistency is what's going to do that.
I think it's a hunger. You know what I mean? Like
It
a
is.
lot, you, to be honest with you, a lot of guys coming into the sport, a lot of them are dads. You know,
Yeah.
and a lot of us in the sport, played some sort of sport prior to being a father and stuff, and took some time, maybe we're at the beginning of our family stages or we have kids that are, you know, a little bit older, and we're just now able to find the time to really invest some time into a sport. And I tell you what, it ignites, a fire in a man.
Yes, scratches that competitive itch you have, and
Yes.
you
And
start going
it's
crazy.
hard. It's hard to, it's hard, like you said earlier, it's hard to dial down your intensity, when you're on the table. Like you said, it triggers something in you. And it's just like, oh
It
man,
does. It
it's hard.
does. And
It's hard to be disciplined with your strength um, levels and your, I like to say your matches, your striked matches. You know what I mean? Like having like 10 matches to strike, and stopping at five. You know,
yeah,
like using half of your energy reserves or strength reserves.
yeah, and I talk to a lot of people that they ask me about how my training goes and what I do for my training, and I mean I do a full upper body slash lower body workout after my table practice, and people don't seem to understand like how I'm able to do that, but it's because I sit there when I'm pulling, and I know when enough is enough. I mean, I know when I've gotten in good work, and I know that if you push that a little too much, you just end up hurting yourself. Not injury, but hurting yourself for the next week. You're not able to train, and really, that's not what practice is all about. Practice is about making yourself better. Where do you struggle at? Those are the areas you need to focus on and get better with. It's not about seeing how strong you are. It's not about seeing who you can beat. Nobody cares. There's no medals at a practice. You're not winning any money. Um, so show up, work on what you suck at. It's the same with the gym. If you suck at a certain exercise, you should probably be doing it.
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
hate it, you should probably be doing it. So yeah, I'm starting to be very very disciplined in my training, just because it goes hand in hand with being able to train off the table as much as on the table. If I can get in 52 practices a year, which is every week, it's not going to happen. I'm competing, things of that nature, but just if I was able to get in 52 practices a week, the consistency within how I perform on the table, how I transition, everything is going to be a lot more fluid than if I get in 4 practices a year and
For sure. Yeah.
beat myself up every time.
What I think a lot of people in the community knows there's two different types of in shape, you know. Well, three. You're either out of shape, you're in gym shape, or you're in table shape,
Yeah.
right? So I was just I just had Scott Agulia at the house yesterday, and we did a workout and stuff. He's got a match coming up at one of Randall's events, and Scott has had some time off from the sport because of coaching and stuff like that. That is used up his time, but I think he's got like 7 weeks to this match, and I told him, I said, you have to get that table time in because you've had X amount of time off of the table.
Yeah.
You have to be able to arm wrestle first, you know, and then, on your off days, you worry about getting your recovery and your strength in. But you have to have that table time in if you have limited amount of it, throughout the year, especially with the match coming up.
And there's a conditioning aspect to that, and it's the same way with strength training. Everybody follows the progressive overload, strategy there. It's just doing more than what you did previously, and it's the same way with if you're trying to run a mile. Let's say you can't run a full mile, you have to walk. You're not going to start with just killing yourself to run a mile. Now you can't run for 2 weeks. You got shin splints. Your body's beat up. Whatever. It's the same way with arm wrestling. You don't want to go pull for 3 hours and then not be able to pull for a month because you did that. You have to condition yourself leading up to that.
Oh yeah.
And
New guys like that. I told them at the beginning, I said, just take it easy. You're gonna be hurting.
pretty
And
bad.
guess what? One can't even, well, they're both right arms. One guy can't really do anything with his right, and then the other guy can't do anything sideways, and it just like everything just he just loses everything. I'm like,
And it's so fun when you're new to get on the table and
oh yeah,
pull and just keep pulling because you're learning at the same time and it's great. But when you're new, especially, I mean, you have to go easy at practice because, not only are you risking injury, your connective tissue is probably never, had to handle that much abuse in one setting.
dude. I think a lot of the fun of arm wrestling at the beginning is the learning. Like, okay, it's fun to, get those practice wins, you know what I mean, or whatever. It's always fun getting together with your buddies and stuff. But really, I really enjoyed the learning aspect of it, seeing that light bulb come on
And it happens to everybody differently.
every
Yep.
every so often you'll learn something new and it's like you get that, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Those were the greatest aspects of this, of this whole journey is, progressively getting better and learning more, you know.
Hmm.
It's so much fun. And I really, really, I get a lot of joy out of teaching and watching the newer pullers get better week by week by week by week. And then like just for example, Parker Wise. I literally saw his light bulb and I felt the light bulb click and turn on at the exact moment. And dude, I
Yeah.
was yes! It was so joyful, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
was, you don't have it yet, you don't have it yet. And I said, do this, do that. And then it finally clicked and he was just like, whoop, and it was just, dude, it was awesome. I was so happy seeing it happen, and I was there to witness it.
And it's really cool. It's something special when you watch a puller go from being super uncoordinated on the table,
Oh yeah.
not as an individual, but super
Yep.
uncoordinated on the table, and
Yep.
then watching them just progress and become more fluid and being able to move like an athlete on the table, not just like you're strong, not just like you're fast, but being able to put it all together. And it's something you have to have a lot of discipline for. This sport is not for people who are not coachable. I mean, if you think that you're going to just do this all on your own and figure it all out and not need anybody's help or advice, or
Good luck.
got another thing coming. I mean, and you got to be able to take people's everybody's advice with a grain of salt because you're not the same. Like nobody is the exact same. So as far as the fundamentals go, you're never going to hit like somebody else does. You're never going to put all of those aspects together and pull exactly like somebody else. That you might have your form is a half inch taller than theirs, half inch shorter. Your leverages don't. don't make sense, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but you have to have a lot of discipline within the sport, especially when you're starting out. You have to be able to sit there and go, okay, it doesn't feel right, but I'll listen, I'll power through it, and then you just work on that. And then all of a sudden, one day you're like, wow, I just made everything happen just like that.
Hmm.
Before you're watching people on the table and they're just, you know, they
Yeah.
don't really know what's going on. But
Yeah. I think that's why it is so imperative that new pullers do not attempt to go at this with other new pullers.
absolutely,
Like
absolutely,
you cannot get through this, you know, healthy, we'll say, with you and your buddy just learning, together off of internet videos, right?
no,
You
you're never
have
gonna,
you have to search out people that know what they're talking about.
yeah,
If you got to drive 2 hours, hey, it is what it is, or else you're gonna really put yourself and set yourself back with those injuries that you are going to have happen to you because you're not training, you're not getting that knowledge, you know, from the experienced pullers. You it's so valuable to actually have somebody there that knows what they're talking about.
absolutely. I agree 100%. It's a huge problem whenever you see two newer guys pulling with each other too, because you just develop a lot of bad habits within that sense.
Oh yeah.
You watch people just do entirely everything that they're told not to do because they're gunning for that win. Especially when I don't care what anybody says, like 99% of arm wrestlers have an ego. They have a competitive nature to them. Nobody wants their hand to hit the pin pad.
Right.
When you get a little more experience and you start realizing like, okay, I'm pulling this many
Dude,
events a year, whatever.
the worst is whenever the camera comes out.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. There for a while I was like, no cameras, no cameras. Because
and I've always
that camera
been.
comes out there like, oh, he's got a camera on.
Yeah, and I've always been the kind of person that records. It's not necessarily a problem me losing in a practice, but I've always been the kind of person that records um, me lifting, me when I was fighting, arm wrestling, training, events, etc. Because you need to sit down and kind of dissect everything you're doing. It's a lot harder to put the pieces of the puzzle together without going back on film and watching. I mean, I learned that from
Well,
my high school football coach. We watched film for a reason.
yeah, I have an idea for that. Okay, to save memory and storage on your phone, what you do, just go live on your YouTube, but you put it as private and or unlisted. Then you got
Oh, and it's always there
it's always there, and then you have what you need as far as your video of your body positioning and all that stuff.
because you've got to be able to see everything, man. Like it took me about a year and a half into the sport. I took a few losses in a row that I should have taken. And I'm not saying I shouldn't have taken them because I was better than the other guy. I don't think I should have, gotten beat because I don't think I got beat by another puller. I think I beat myself in the setup and just with making mistakes, bad habits.
Yeah,
Um, and I don't always look at a loss that way either. There's some good losses for sure. You have really good matches and you learn from them, but these were things that had already learned and just wasn't making it happen. And I was able to, because I recorded everything, go back and really dissect every single match that I lost over the first year and a half that I competed in the sport.
yeah,
And I saw so many similarities within these losses. And it's not just like, it's pretty easy to say somebody's stronger than you, somebody
yeah.
has a better hand, somebody has a good hit, whatever. Super easy to say that. It's like a built-in excuse. You go to the table and you're like, oh, this guy's just stronger than me, he's gonna beat me. It's like, no, that's not why you're losing. You're not just losing because he's better than you. He's doing something. He's taking something away from you. He's not letting you access this, whatever. Those are main reasons why you're losing. The strength aspect, it does play a factor when somebody is like just, a whole lot stronger than you.
No doubt, no doubt.
But, with that being said, Yeah, I'm a big, like I said, I'm a big believer in watching film. Um,
Oh, it's definitely beneficial too. It's I like the availability to have film for the new guys, you know, because sometimes what I'll do is I will have two guys. It could even be two new guys. What I do is I'll even have two new guys uh, slow pull each other on a table, and I will film it, and I'll have one guy just hold, and then I'm trying to guide the other puller in the correct way that I want them to move. Okay, so then I'll just have one guy try to hold, the other guy go through the motion, and then I'll record it. And then if if they do it correctly, then I just obviously show them. But either way, I'm showing them the video, and then I'm trying to let them see what they need to do different or what they are actually doing good. And it's so beneficial. If people can see what they're doing wrong, then it's definitely a good thing.
yeah, I think it's also super important. I think I see too many tables, in my opinion. I see too many tables at practices. I'll see 10 people in a room, and I'll see six tables there.
Oh,
Everybody's on a table pulling at the same time. Nobody's watching anybody pull, and
right.
you're not watching to see wins or losses, but you're at a practice to help each other out ultimately.
Oh yeah,
So if
yeah,
I'm able to watch in on, whatever's going on, and then I'm
yep,
able to sit back and go, okay, you did this, you did that, small things.
yep.
It's all small things that, that need to be worked on in practices, and they don't get brought up enough in practices. I feel like a lot of people, practice just to see how strong they are and test themselves.
Mhm.
It's not really what it's for.
Sometimes I'll walk around practice, and I'll just be walking around practice like this, and
Like a
just
football coach.
watching, and then looking, and then if somebody's doing something good, I'm like, yeah, let's go. Look nice, that look good.
Yeah.
Keep that hip over, elbow to belly button, fist to face. And I love just doing that sometimes. Just the positive reinforcement. It's awesome. I love doing it.
And it's great that you do, because I feel like there's not enough people who are willing to help out everybody within their practice or within their team at a practice. I feel like everybody kind of goes there. Not everybody. A lot of people go there for more or less selfish reasons. They're everybody at the end of the day is there to get better.
Yep.
But the only way you're going to get better is if everybody else is getting better with you.
Hmm.
You're not just going to skyrocket out of nowhere and everybody else stays the same. Like everybody's helping everybody out. It needs to be more of a team effort. Whether you're on a legit team or you're just at a practice with somebody, you see something that you think is wrong, bring it up, tell them, hey, you got a little out of position, you separated a little bit, you got a little away from the table. There's so many little things within the sport that contribute to pullers getting better, and I just feel like they need to be assessed more. And
For sure. You know, I like it. Um, so let's talk about. We kind of talked about your match already. Um, I
yeah,
did want to get before we move on to another subject. I want to get your thoughts and your feelings on the match itself, how it came to come to be, yeah, how it came to be, and what do you think your advantages and disadvantages and stylistic, you know, do you have any thoughts on that between you and Brandon Elsesser?
on paper, it's a little weird. He's got a lot of high level wins, as do I. I've got some wins on some guys that have beaten him. He's got some wins on some guys that arm wrestling math never maths. Not
Right.
not in my experience. But on paper, he's a favorite, of course. He's been around a lot longer. He's been very dominant. Brandon's a beast. I'm not gonna you know say he's anything short of a beast. He's an animal within the sport. He has been for since I got into the sport. I remember back in 2021, I was watching him pull up in Toledo, Ohio. I think at a payday event. I think I was 5 6 months into the sport. I remember watching him pull, and I was like, "Wow, that dude's he's an animal. He's killing it."
Mm-hmm.
So getting the opportunity, not even 4 years later, to pull him is awesome. I think I'm on that level. I think I'm, without sounding arrogant, I think I'm past that level. I have pretty high expectations going into this match. Um, I'm never going to go into a match saying I'm going to lose. So no disrespect to Brandon. I think you're amazing. Uh, I think on that day I'm just going to be a little bit better. Um, and again, um, yeah, just super thankful for the opportunity. Brandon's a super cool dude. I respect him a lot, not only as an athlete but as a person in general. I've always gotten along with Brandon.
Yeah.
Um, super
It's
excited.
it definitely says something to Brandon's person himself, to give somebody literally, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but he's given an unknown an opportunity,
Yeah,
like
I think
known,
on
definitely known in our region,
yeah,
but you know, it's different. Like him pulling Craig Toulier, okay,
right,
that's a known, known, and everybody's like, oh, that's
absolutely.
a good match. For him to give you the opportunity, a somewhat, I'm not, like I said, a somewhat unknown, as far as nationwide,
Right.
you know, you are on the national rankings, but some
Yeah.
people they just don't even look at it. So it's like, man,
No, some
but
people don't know, man. Some people
yeah,
don't keep up with it. And
is it's a testament to Brandon giving somebody opportunities, and it's awesome. I love seeing it. The sport is not going to grow if the higher level names and the higher level pullers don't give the up and comers the opportunities. It's just going to be
yeah,
like the all the matches at East versus West. It's going to be the top guys just pulling each other back and forth.
all day long.
So,
And I think there's something to be said for that too. And I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna sit here and talk myself up or anything crazy, but I think you have to earn that kind of match as well. Not just me being on the armed fighter rankings, that's one thing. That's cool. But like, in 2024, for instance, I won nationals. I traveled out to Arizona, pulled Arizona State. That's across the country from where I live. We're in Ohio. Uh, I've done my fair share of traveling, and I've been, pretty successful within the sport here recently. And all that, does help, of course, when it comes to getting a match like this. I
yeah,
can't expect to pull, 3 Ohio tournaments a year and then call
yeah,
out a big name.
right.
You have to travel around. You have to, you have to. There's a risk to reward factor that comes into play there. And I could have very well went to Arizona State, got beat. Went, 2 and out, went home a loser, like I
Right.
did, when I went to Missouri 4 years ago, and it happens. But at the end of the day, you're going to have the exact same opportunities. Um, well, anybody's going to get those opportunities if they travel around and and start making that progress with everybody around the country being able to see that. I've got a lot of pullers. I've got some friends that live out in Arizona now. I've got friends that live. There's people in Pennsylvania. West Virginia, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, Missouri, all these Florida, all these different places I've traveled for this sport. Yeah,
Where where would you actually? This is just off topic a little bit, but if you could travel to um one event, one signature event, you know what I mean, that you have your eyes on, which event would it be? The one that you haven't been to yet.
like one big event that I want to go to. I mean, I'm really capable of attending any of these events. Um,
Which
everything costs
one
money.
catches your eye? You know what I mean? That gives you a little twinkle in your eye and be like, oh man, I wouldn't mind going down there.
Winter Blast, Winter Blast for sure. I don't know why I haven't been out to that yet. It's 8 hours away.
Right?
But that's something that for some reason, every year, I guess the past 2 years that I've wanted to go to Winter Blast, I've had something kind of take my focus away from it.
Yeah.
Last year it was Nationals. I was focused on Nationals. So
Gotcha.
of course, putting all my eggs into that basket. This year, I get this match with Brandon Elsesser. That kind of, takes my focus away from. Whenever I'm pulling a big tournament like that, I put all of my eggs into that basket. I don't look forward. Like, yeah, same with the super match. I have an arm wrestling schedule of all the events I want to hit this year. But at the end of the day, none of them matter except for this match with Brandon.
Yeah. One thing at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If you
Oh,
start focusing on too many things, you're going to go crazy. You're going to start getting in your head a lot.
yeah.
One of the biggest things is confidence within this sport, and I think if you're feeling good leading up to an event, whatever, it's because you're focusing on that one event, you're training for that one event. You start thinking about what I'm going to do, and I'm pulling Brandon in 6 weeks. If I start thinking about a tournament in 3 months from now, like, oh, well, I need to prepare for this, but I guess good example, I have a match with Rich, right-handed and left-handed, May 31st.
Yep.
If I start focusing on training my right arm to pull Rich right now, now I'm taking a little bit from focusing on this left-handed match with Brandon.
Right.
And that starts a downhill spiral. You just start stressing out over things that you don't need to be doing.
Hmm.
And yeah, this game's just as much, mentally challenging as it is physically challenging for sure.
For sure.
But
Let's
yeah, Winter Blast sounds fun.
I think you would do very well there for sure.
It's a
It,
big tournament, man.
it's a big tournament,
Big
so
tournament.
it's not it's not like you would be favored to win it either.
Absolutely not. And I
Yeah.
love that. I that's one of my biggest turnoffs when it comes to a match or a tournament or anything within the sport. If I'm expected to win, I hate that. I hate that because, like, why am I going? Like,
Right.
if I'm expected to, and no disrespect to any pullers out there who want to pull me in super matches, if there is not like if there is a 1% chance that somebody is going to beat me in a super match, and like I said, not trying to be disrespectful at all. If you're a new guy, you're wanting to pull me in a super match, you're not seasoned, you haven't arm wrestled very much, I'm probably not going to give you that opportunity right away. And I mean, for their sake, just as much as for mine. And I think a lot of higher level guys and a lot of even mid level guys kind of feel the exact same way. Um, and it's the same with tournaments. Like, there's a lot of Ohio tournaments that I don't pull, and it's not because I think that I'm just going to go in there and kill everybody or whatever. But I've pulled the same people several times,
Yeah.
and it takes that excitement out. And if I do go to a tournament and I show up and people are like, "Oh, you're favored to win this. I see who showed up. You should win today." It's like, dude, don't tell me that. I hate that.
Right.
And
End up
I
having to pull up a class because there's only two
yeah.
people in your class.
And that's why when I do go to a lot of these Ohio tournaments, I'll enter, 242s and then super heavyweights. I've showed up at 223 pounds and there's been like a 225 class and I entered 242s and supers. And it's not me discrediting anybody at the 220 class, but when I see there's two newer guys pulling in that class, I'm not going to go in there and, you know,
Yeah.
just my opinion on that.
Right. I like it. I like it though.
I
So
think being an underdog gives you a lot of being an underdog within any sport, I think gives you that fire to train hard, but also, you have to deal with everything mentally leading up to the competition and then during, and it just builds a better athlete at the end of the day.
yeah, for sure. I like it. Well, you're definitely the underdog against Brandon.
Big time. Big
Big time.
time.
So it gives you, I'm hoping it creates a fire in you and the hunger, you know,
Oh,
to,
absolutely.
to not, one, not get embarrassed. And then two, to really show the arm wrestling community what you can do.
Yeah.
You've trained, you put your training in, you've invested your time into the community, into your training, into uh, your teammates. Time is the only thing that we have of value, and
Yeah.
it says a lot whenever you're willing to put in time with people week after week after week. It's not something that we do just willy nilly. It's something we want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. and that's another thing I want to touch base on too. Like everybody that has helped me, I've only had this match locked in for a couple weeks now, but I mean, just if you've shown up at practice, if you've, of course, Drew made those pads. Drew's helped me practice a lot. If you've given me any pointers, if you've given me any advice, if you've said good luck in the comment section on the Facebook post, I appreciate that a ton. I don't let any of that go unrecognized. I'm not a selfish person. Anybody who trains with me, anybody who helps me out, anybody who I'm never gonna turn away and not recognize that. So
Yeah.
I do appreciate everybody that has, helped me out so far within the sport as a whole. I've been arm wrestling for almost 4 years now, and I've had a lot of ups and downs. It's been a bumpy road for sure.
Hmm.
Um,
Dude,
but
I can't help but say how valuable it is having Niles and Doug as training partners. Like you could not get better available people so close to you. That is awesome.
oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah,
The
absolutely,
value in their strength to keep you strong is just holy moly.
yeah. And I mean, and Doug, I've been training with Doug since 2022.
Yeah.
I trained with him for like 5 months consistently, and then we just trained off and on ever since then. And he's helped me out a lot. And that's just if anybody is able to get close to an arm wrestler who's really good within the sport, don't be a know-it-all. Like that's the only thing I can really say. And everything they say, just be a sponge, soak everything up. um
Yeah.
it's yeah.
That kind of took me into the last point that I had for this episode is the different types of training routines. You know, okay, so like you have a slightly different training routine than what I have. So
Right.
I my table time as my heavy day, and then I just do recovery, right? So you, on the other hand, you do a lot of full body exercise, even legs and stuff.
Yeah.
Like my legs are like this big around. Your legs are, the tree trunks over here. So
Yeah, I'm trying to make them stronger. I do that, and people have asked me that within the sport. People at the gym, even, they're like, "Hey, you arm wrestle. Why are you squatting right now?"
right.
I think it's for one, it's never going to hurt to train your entire body
No.
within this sport. It's never going to hurt you unless you get injured.
Don't they say if you have good thighs, then you're healthy? Like your health is like way better.
Yeah, I
Something
think there's a
like that.
lot of benefits to training your legs. I think there's a ton of benefits to training your legs, your lower body as a whole in the gym. I
Your
don't
core
know them,
is just
but
way better.
I feel great.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks the first
Well,
couple weeks,
it
but
definitely helps being 24, 25 years old, right? I
that's
think
another thing.
we all can
And
agree that is part of
yeah,
the available feeling great aspect that Cody Smith has.
that's one thing. The age
But that,
does
that-
does play a factor. I'm always I don't know. I'm scared to become that, guy in his 50s and 60s that can't play in the backyard with his
oh yeah,
grandchildren.
yeah,
You
it's
know, so if
yeah,
you if you use it, you won't lose it kind of thing.
yep,
That's kind of where I'm at. And I started lifting weights back in 2014. Well, 2013 Christmas, I got like a Gold's Gym weight set, those standard sets with I think they're like vinyl weights with concrete inside of them.
yeah,
A little standard like 5 or 15 pound barbell. And I got a Gold's Gym, picture to put on my wall that had 30 exercises, 40 exercises. I did every single one of them every day. Like I had no idea what I was doing. I started looking things up on YouTube trying to learn, but what I was doing, even though it wasn't the correct way to go about it, it was still more than what I was used to doing. So of course I made progress. And
yep,
I think within this sport, like, just my personal opinion, I'm not recommending anybody do this um, because I can't say it's going to work for everybody else like I feel it works for me. But training your entire body to be strong, I don't think is ever going to hurt you. You with arm wrestling, you want a strong core. That's huge. I think that's overlooked a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
And you want a strong core, you want a strong back for sure. I've never seen anybody squat in 500 or 600 pound range with a small or weak back. So that's a big thing for me. I've never seen a strong deadlifter, have a weak back or have a weak core. It's just not going to happen. So am I training when I squat? Is it helping me arm wrestle? Maybe, no, not directly. But if it is strengthening my core, then there's an argument to be made that, indirectly it is helping me on the table. Again, there's thousands of different ways to train your core, of course. That's the
Right.
way I choose to do it. I like, I like training in the gym. I like the powerlifting aspect. Um, but, for me, the practices kind of, like I said, I practice on the things that I'm not very good at, or the things I need to work on, or if like right now, I have a competition coming up. I have a super match coming up. I'm training, a lot of ready goes. I'm training like I'm getting ready to go to war.
Yep.
Um, so that's a you know just my opinion on that. So yeah, I squat, I bench press, I deadlift. I still do pronation exercises, supination exercises. Rising is super important. Cupping, I still do all of that. Um, but I have access to a 27,000 square foot gym
Yeah, it
with
definitely.
everything I could ever imagine. So
Yep.
of course I'm like a little kid, at a candy store in there. I'm going
So,
crazy.
so one thing, Adam Finley brings it up. He said, "I'm with you on the legs, Billy. Looking small. I have a bad knee and can't train my legs." That brings up another point. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I'm older, right?
Yeah,
And my knees, they went through, the idiotic, you know, late teens decisions. Instead of ladder down the steps, it's a one-story house. Oh yeah, I'll be fine. I just jump off.
yeah.
You know, oh my goodness. They always said you're gonna pay for that later. Oh, guess what?
I'm
Def-
paying for some of the stuff I did 10 years ago now. I feel
yeah,
little aches in my hips, here and there. I
yep.
know it's going to
You're
get
only
worse over time.
you're 24, 25.
Yeah, I'll be 25 in March,
Okay,
so
so
less than a month away.
practically 25. You know, trust me, it happens, and you start feeling everything roughly like 32, 33.
Yeah,
That's when everything that is happening now and in the last 10 years, you will start feeling in the 32, 33 year range.
absolutely. I've been
Yeah,
through a shoulder surgery now. I've got a banged up right shoulder. Um, yeah, and that's, kind of another thing. I work a blue collar job, I'm a carpenter.
yeah,
Uh, so, it's for me, not only is training my entire body healthy for me because of what I do for work, but
yep.
also it kind of keeps the pain away temporarily. As some people might not
Yeah.
understand that, but
Get in those muscles, the better it feels right off the bat.
yeah,
Plus,
blood is a natural healer. I mean, when you're doing recovery work, you're doing light blood flow work.
yeah, exactly.
Ice and heat therapy, light blood flow. If I stop training my back
Oh,
for a month, it's going
oh,
to lock up.
yeah, exactly.
It's going to. So if you don't use it, you'll lose it. Is kind of my entire mentality
Yep.
when it comes to going to the gym. I'll take a couple weeks out of the year and do some crazy stuff. I'll start doing some log presses because it's there. It's fun.
Hmm.
I have fun with it.
Yeah. Adam brought up, even just football injuries, you
Yeah,
know, and limit a young man in what he can and cannot do in his 20s, you know?
absolutely. I played football for 10, 11 years. Wrestled until I was from 5 all the way up to freshman in high school. Played baseball. Started powerlifting when I was 14. And a lot of these things they add up. They all factor into to how you feel when you get older. A lot of people say like, oh, trust me, you're gonna feel that when you're older. It's like, no, dude, you start feeling it right now.
Yeah.
If you did enough, enough stuff to your body, yeah, if you had enough pain, you'll start feeling it pretty quick. And
Yeah.
sooner or later, you just wake up and it's just normal. So it's not pain anymore. It's just
Exactly.
what you feel every day.
Parker's just now getting here. What the heck, Parker? Jeez, man.
He's early.
He's
We've
late.
only been on here for an hour. We got four more to go.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm telling you what, we like I said, I was trying to keep this right around an hour, hour and a half. We'll just have general conversation for right now, but if anybody has any questions or comments, any attaboys or good lucks to Cody for his match, go ahead and pop everything in the chat. I said my bad, bro. Parker, I was telling everybody about when your light bulb came on in the garage here. I was telling them that story. It was definitely a fun time. But yeah, if anybody has any comments or questions or anything like that, make sure you put them in the chat here soon. We'll get to them before we cut off the stream. But we'll probably be finishing up here maybe 5-10 minutes, something like that. But yeah, it's I kind of feel like the sport right now. Obviously, it's been blowing up for you know probably the last 3 years, right?
Yeah.
2-3 years. It's been going crazy. Um, the implementation of clubs cannot be overshadowed, cannot be overlooked. Like we just uh, we just started the Youngstown crew. You just started yours. We already have the East Liverpool group. Uh, we have Columbus. We got Toledo. We
Yeah.
got Randall's group down there. It is so valuable having different clubs in roughly like within an hour or two drive. You know,
Oh, it's
and this is
big
another
time.
thing for newer pullers. Don't just pull your buddy.
Yeah.
You have to pull a bunch of different arms. You cannot learn everything just from one or two people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's going to be a few times, that the West Ohio arm wrestlers are taking a field trip. We're going to go practice with a different club here and there. It's going to happen. I'll
Yeah.
still have somebody back at the gym, hosting the practice for me, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you don't want to just pull with the same people 24/7.
Yeah.
You get the opportunity to go pull with somebody. Like I got invited to go pull with Todd Hutchins and Kevin and Jason. I'm gonna do that. Of course, that's on a Tuesday, so I'll still be able to hit my Saturday practice too.
Right.
Um, but you got to take full advantage of those opportunities. I've had back when Quinlan Mendez's left was healthy before he had his surgery. I got the chance to practice with him back in 2021. I think it was 4 or 6 months, somewhere around there, into the sport. Uh, Pretty new, and I got the chance to go pull with him, and that was awesome. That was a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
Um,
That's not bad.
no, not at
I
all. I
think
mean,
I think 2 hours is probably the limit for a practice. For a
yeah,
practice.
I got super lucky when I started training with Doug. He lived like 25 minutes away from me, so I was at his house 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
Training with him, lifting with him. And I mean, through that, like, me and Doug have became pretty good friends. Doug's a really good dude. One of my best friends
thought,
for sure.
I thought Doug and Bethany was moving to Jamaica or something like that. Where did I hear that?
No, no,
Years ago.
I don't think so. I mean, if they are, I haven't heard about it yet.
So they
Jamaica.
Ohio, correct?
What is it?
Do they live in Ohio, don't they?
Yeah, Doug does travel around for work quite a bit though. So if he's in Ohio, you if he gets called to work, he could not be in Ohio next month. It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was super grateful that I think 2022 February March somewhere around there 2022 is when all I did was reach out to Doug. So if anybody in here is watching this, you feel like reaching out to a more experienced puller, a better puller, if you're ever worried or scared they're going to turn you down, whatever, I can almost guarantee you they're not going to turn you down. They're not going to drive to your house. Like you're going to have to,
You're gonna have to go
know,
for sure.
Yeah, but I can't see a lot of people within the sport unless you come off the wrong way or or you're disrespectful to them. I can't see them turning you away.
Correct.
Of course, that's how our sport gets better. You know, we have to have those guys, um, you know, helping out.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. I know there's been, oh my goodness, so many times where people just want to come over on a Sunday afternoon and just learn how to pull, and I'll just, yeah, come on over, dude. And then 3 hours later, they're
yeah,
finally leaving the house.
yeah, and that's I think that's kind of how it started for me. I think my first practice was a brother in arms practice, and I still, well, I mean, I pulled with Tim Lewis a couple of times, but like my first big club practice was back when Brother in Arms was still kind of up and going, and
Are they still having practices?
no, no, they
No,
haven't in a pretty long time. That's kind of why I took over. So they used to have them for, well, I think when I first got into the sport, like shortly after that, they kind of disbanded. Not really disbanded, but just stopped. I think
dude,
kind of how that happened.
Josh Koenig is just, oh my goodness, what a beast.
Oh, he is for sure, and he lives I think it's about an hour and a half away from me. Would love to have him come up, to the practices, but it's hard to expect somebody to be there an hour and a half every single
Yeah,
Saturday. I get it, and we all have families too.
yeah.
Josh is a busy man,
Oh yeah,
so
only got
yeah,
married. Yeah,
yeah,
congratulations to him.
yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome for sure.
I
I,
mean,
I've I've done everything I can to get around as many, good arm wrestlers within the sport, not just to learn about arm wrestling, but just to make new friends as well. And I've kind of taken every little bit of what everybody said and applied it to kind of create my own style, if you will.
I think that's what a lot of people end up doing. You know what I
Yeah, you
mean?
kind of have to. Yeah,
They're not every person is going to pull like Joe Blow or Jim Bob. You know what I mean? Like so,
absolutely.
like if Adam, like Adam just said in the chat, he's going to hit up some more practices once the weather breaks. That's great. He's going to be able to understand what more technical pullers feel like versus more stronger pullers, you
Yeah,
know, and be able to utilize, like you did, five different types of pullers, and all mesh it all into one to where he feels as comfortable as possible, because that's really what it's all about is okay, identifying your strong points and your weak points. Okay,
absolutely.
where are my strong points? Where are my weak points? Okay, all right. So you train a little bit on your strong points at the beginning of practice, and then boom, 3/4 of the practice you're getting B side work, or wherever you're weak at. Like you said, you just working your weak points, and
Yeah,
just honing the skill is just so valuable for sure.
I also think it's super important, and this is what I do, and I think it's helped me out a lot. I treat the winter as my off season, and that is because I live in Ohio. We have,
Oh yeah,
I mean, we just got a ton of snow the other day, and I didn't expect it at all. I mean, I don't know if they were actually calling for it or not, but you don't ever really know. And then all of a sudden, you've got 5, 6 inches of snow on the ground, and the roads are horrible. And so
yep,
I treat the months from like November to February, March ish as an off season. That's 4 to 5 months there, and that's the time that you need to be using to, if you can travel to practice, that's fine. If not, practicing locally, whatever. If you suck in a hook, take 5 months and go crazy in a hook.
yeah,
Still pull outside. Don't get rusty. Don't neglect your good angles, your good lanes, whatever. But if you suck in a hook, become a proficient hooker over the next 5 months and train that lane and perfect it. There's a sweet science to this sport within every fundamental move. And I think a lot of people get caught up in being super, super active and they don't really ever get the time to build because they're always testing.
yeah,
If you go to a tournament all the time and you have a bad hook and you're competing every other month, whatever, you're never going to feel comfortable getting in a hook with anybody.
yeah.
Sooner than later, you're going to pull somebody that you're not going to be able to beat them outside. You need to hook. Well,
One thing I want to add into
yeah.
that is data. You have to have data, right? So you have to be able to measure your lifts. If you want to get good at a hook, okay, if you can curl a 45-pound weight for 3 reps, there's your data. Can you do
Well,
a
yeah.
50 for one? Okay, then you work on it, work on it, work on it, right? You have to be able to measure your data so that way you know if you're getting stronger or not.
Yes, absolutely. So I do agree with that. I guess I was more or less touching base on the technical aspect of a
Oh
hook.
yeah, 100%.
So,
Yeah.
like, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that they're not weak. They're not bad in a hook because they're weak. They're bad in a hook because their positioning is just horrible. like,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of
This
big, strong dudes that
you.
I'm like, man, if you would just like focus on getting strong in that lane, you'd be great in it. But and it's hard to sit back and go, okay, I'm horrible at. Say you're a horrible outside puller. It's hard to sit back and go, okay, my hook is so proficient. Um, I need to learn how to top roll people. It's hard to sit there and do that when you're having a lot of success. But if you go to 4 tournaments and you get first place, third place, and then 0-2, and the last 2 tournaments you went to, you're a really good you're a really good top roller, or you're a really good hooker, vice versa, whatever. You need to be able to use everything that you have. You need to build an arsenal.
Oh yeah.
And I can speak from experience in this because I was at nationals last year. If I wouldn't have had a decent, and I'm not even saying I have a good press, but I have a decent press. If I wouldn't have had a good press, I would have lost that match to Jack Severa. My outside was gassed. My hand was good enough, but it wasn't going to be able to hold up in a war. And I tried hooking off the rip. I kind of lost hand control. I tried to go outside, ended up fouling, but it's a good thing that I did foul because I didn't have hand control to begin with. So I tried to go outside, didn't work. In the setup, I was like, all right, you've tried to hook, you've tried to go outside.
Yep.
What else can you do? Yeah, I can flop press. I'm not doing that. That's painful. Like,
Yeah.
that is a last resort option. But I'm like, okay, like, set up high, get your frame, get behind your body, create a wall, and initiate a press off the ready go.
Yep.
If he already knows that, you can't hook him, you can't top roll him, he's almost thinking to himself, I've got this in the bag. I'm getting ready to win this match. Like, he can't do anything with my hand. And all of a sudden, bam, you cut off that lane
Yeah.
completely. You fire through. I think, and that wouldn't have, been possible if I wouldn't have done that training in the off season. And that's why I think an off season is super, super important.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure. I would like to premise for any new pullers, do not press yet.
no, no,
you're
absolutely not.
you're under 6 months. Don't be trying to press.
You will break your arm.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea. And really, I mean, I don't even like teaching a lot of newer guys how to hook because it's hard to create, I don't know, it's hard to put into words how to pull and not push simultaneously.
Right.
It's
Right. Right.
hard for them to understand as well.
Yeah.
Um, I
But
tell a lot of people,
but
you're grabbing like if it's a gym guy, you're doing a lat pull down. Next thing you know, they're
yeah.
not going sideways. They're only applying back pressure. So it's super hard. The fundamentals in arm wrestling being the top roll, the hook, and the press. I think the press does need taken out of the fundamentals. That's not really a beginner
No,
um, a
I
beginner
like
move. But
waiting after a year. Learn how to top
yeah,
roll first. Learn how to pull, and then okay, after you get an understanding on how to top roll, okay, then you high hook, right?
yeah,
And once you learn how to high hook, then you hook. Then once you learn how to hook, then you can top roll with a finisher press. And then after that, then you start thinking about a hook press. Then you start thinking about a press.
Yeah, and I think, and with everybody learning at different speeds, of course, I think that time could come a little sooner, but it could also take way longer. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
there might
Oh
be some people that, you don't have any business pressing ever.
yeah.
Like, you got to figure a lot out before you start, going into those waters. It can be a very dangerous move, very effective, very
Yeah.
dangerous,
Very
and
elbow integrity is put on the line.
big time.
Oh,
Transitioning is another thing that's, also super hard to learn. And that's another thing needs to be drilled a lot during the off season.
oh dude, I that's one thing that I is body manipulation is one
Yeah.
thing I'm very adamant about. Like I'll see pullers, just their arm just stays here and they move their body. I'm like, no, stop.
Yeah.
And I try to teach body manipulation right off the bat. Hip up to the right. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Get elbow to belly button, fist to face. And just
Yeah.
work from that position, and then try to keep, the pressure this way.
And
And
Doug used to always tell me to keep my shoulder. I never knew what he meant by that.
oh yeah,
And
yeah,
then I started going back on film, and this was a couple years ago, and I'm like, keep your shoulder. It's just meaning to be in a better position. And
right.
that's something that I like to drill and practice a lot too, along with transitioning. You know, you and somebody else have to be on the same, you have to be willing to do that with a practice partner, somebody you trust preferably.
Yep.
But you guys are both set up. You start applying back pressure, you start fighting for center table control, outside, whatever. And then you guys both come up and get into a hook, set a hook with each other, and then start going back outside. And I think there's, within any sport, you have drills to help you, become more proficient in certain aspects of the sport. I think arm wrestling is no different. You can drill all of these different lanes and angles. And now, next thing you know, you're in a match with somebody, and all of a sudden, you guys are both fighting for hand control. You're in a little bit better position than him. You set a hook, and it just bam, you open up a door. Now you're pinning him because you've worked on that so many times in practice. It's muscle memory. It's second nature,
Yep.
and of course, it instills confidence within that too. If you're not, and like I said, going back to this in the off season, if you're not a good hooker and you get into a match with somebody, you might be stronger in a hook than them. You might be better in a hook than them, but because you have not built that confidence through training, through preparation, you're never going to do it.
They're always going to second guess themselves.
Absolutely. You have to be confident within, and that's, within, like, I'm a hit guy. I hit really, really hard, both for positioning and for pins, just depending on the match, depending on, um, you know, how I feel, whatever, how the opponent feels, what lanes I feel like I can manipulate, whatever. That hit is something that you have to have a ton of confidence to go out and do. I mean,
Oh yeah.
especially if you're hitting inside. I mean,
Oh.
there's a lot of times where I get up on the table with somebody and I'm like, ooh, yeah, I might hit a wall here and that
uh,
might hurt a lot, but you do it anyways. It just happens. The last time I second guessed myself like that on my hit was against Arson in Arizona. I didn't think I had a good, and I don't really know why this came to be. I think it was just more mental than anything. But I was pulling him, and before the match, when we got both called up to the table, I was like, I don't know if my hand is better than his. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go outside with him. I was like, so I'm going to be slower off the start and try to just set a hook or, start putting pressing pressure forward to see if I can shut down his hand. And I started doing that. It felt great. Next thing I know, my hand's getting busted back, and I'm 2 inches from the pin pad, and we slip.
uh,
Then I'm back to square one. I was like, you know what? I don't know if my outside's better than his. I don't know if my hand's better than his, but that is my bread and butter. As a high hook, is an outside move, high side pressure. We're gonna go for it. We go for it. And we get in, a 15, 20-second match, and then I foul, and then we get in another pretty good little match there. I end up losing at the very end in a hook, but still it could have been a completely different match from the beginning had I had just you know trusted my gut, and I think instilled a little bit more confidence within my outside move. I've been training so much inside, competing, a lot
Right.
before that with an outside move that when I started training that inside move after winning nationals with the press, I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to resort to if I'm unsure. Um, yeah, I guess more of
But
the
I would
story is you create a
suggest
lot of confidence through preparation, and
I
it's
would
super
suggest
important.
I would suggest this to new pullers. Okay, start top rolling, i.e., one. It's the safest. It is the best for longevity. Learn the top roll. Use that first. Then learn how to hook. Only use that when your top roll doesn't work.
Yes.
You know.
Yep.
Okay, so your top roll's not working. Okay, hook them. That's your second and option. Always learn how to top roll first because it's safer. You get in a
Yep.
bunch of hook battles, and especially in a tournament, man, you're going to be smoked for the rest of the.
Yeah. It puts a lot of stress on your bicep, your inner elbow. I mean,
I would suggest new pullers definitely stick to top rolling first. Learn how to hook, yes, but i.e., go for a top roll first, and then if that doesn't work, okay, then you go to hook, and then if that doesn't work, okay, then you go to the press. It is
yeah.
what it's. But just staying safe is paramount. At this point, obviously, because I just got injured, and I'm just like, man, this is stupid. You
Yep.
know, and just staying safe to be able to do it because obviously I'm not getting paid to do any of this. You know, I 99% of the people watching is probably not getting paid to do anything and arm wrestling either. So it's like, man, it's not worth it to get injured. Trust me. So
No, absolutely
stay
not. And
safe and keep your hand in front of your face and keep the shoulders square as much as possible. Injuries are not worth it for sure.
and know when to just let it go, especially being newer to the sport. You're
Uh,
not going to win every match. 9 times out of 10, your life, well, 99.9% of the time, your life is not on the line on that arm wrestling table. Lose, take a loss,
yeah.
learn from it, come back better. It's
One thing
really
I'd
that
like
simple.
to point out for any new pullers that are watching, do not practice and be like trying to fight a battle like this with
No,
your hand back like this and you're trying to pull. just just don't do that
no,
because you're putting so much extensive strain and everything on your wrist. Our wrists are not meant to be bent back like that and to
no.
pull in to be pulling like this from way down here. Do not fight in that position.
There are plenty of strategic ways to use that, bent back, inverted wrist to your advantage, and it is not for when you're first starting out. Is you're not supposed to focus on that at all.
No.
And most of the time, you're not really supposed to drive sideways with your wrist bent back. Anyways, it
No.
creates a door for several different injuries that can occur. It's not safe.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
It,
mean,
it's just I just like seeing people stay safe for sure. Nice and close to their hand. Elbow to the belly button, fist to face. That I just drill that every
absolutely.
hip up to the right, stay inside your shoulders. You know, if I see somebody doing that at practice, I'm like hip, 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 hip,
Yeah,
hip.
you have to, man. It's like no offense to any newer guys, it's like potty training a puppy. You have to be consistent with them. You have to, sit there and, instill that into their minds because it's going to become second nature sooner
Oh
than later.
yeah,
Something you're doing is going to become a habit, whether it's a good habit or a bad habit. You definitely don't want to be in a bad habit.
yeah,
It's really hard to break. And another thing, I think, back to the um, confidence within your preparation. I think if you are going to take an off season, working on building an arsenal is probably one of the most important things you can do within this sport. After you get past that new guy introduction to arm wrestling, once you kind of cross that bridge,
yeah.
now start
Well, once
perfecting.
the light bulb comes on,
Yeah, and it's going to come on for
and
different angles,
you're somewhat proficient at arm wrestling, you can train without getting injured. You know how to stay safe. Okay, now start building your arsenal. Until
Yes.
that light bulb comes on and Until you're confident that you're not going to break your arm, just focus on technique.
Absolutely. Nobody is going to be, you know, jumping up and down, cheering your name on out of practice because you're pulling another guy over to the side of the table and pinning him. You
Right.
know, you, you really got to drill, and just work on everything within the sport. I think fundamentals. I think if you go to any sport, what do you do? I think at the beginning of every year during football season, from second grade when I started playing to senior year of high school, the very beginning of season when we got into pads, we did form tackling drills.
Exactly.
Good form tackle. It's the fundamentals of the sport. And, if we didn't do that, if we stopped doing that in sixth grade, by the time you get to sophomore year of high school, people don't even know how to tackle anymore.
Well, the thing
Yeah,
is guess how many injuries there would have been if the kids didn't understand fundamentals.
absolutely.
It's the exact same
Absolutely.
arm wrestling. If you're seeing a lot of injuries, it's probably because the fundamentals wasn't the base of their training,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And also, I think,
Technique fundamentals is paramount for the first 6 months year.
yeah, big time. Big time. And you always, I go back to the fundamentals every time I practice, just warming up. I sit there and I talk, in my head, I'm thinking, every little small detail. And it all goes back to the fundamentals, whether you're going to pull outside, inside, if you're, going to do anything, you're never going to just get rid of those.
Right. And I don't think anybody should be pulling outside of the fundamentals to begin
No,
with, especially in practice. Like
no.
how would you put your arm on the line for a practice to begin with? Like, no way. No
And
way.
just in case anybody was wondering, the fundamentals of arm wrestling have been, have you seen Pulling John?
I've seen it, yeah.
They talk about the fundamentals at the beginning, the top rule, the hook, the press, right?
Right.
Those are your fundamentals. Like I said, the press, there's a lot of controversy around it being a fundamental, whatever. Um, but high side pressure is not a fundamental. The King's move is not a fundamental. A flop press is not a fundamental. These are things that people have gotten good with, and you're not them.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, you got to find what works for you, yes, but you got to think everybody's bones, their bodies, their height, their every little small detail. There's a reason why certain people are really good in a king's move, or certain people are really good at just going straight sideways, or certain people are really good at flop pressing. You start training like that, you're opening up doors. You're starting to. I think one, you're instilling false confidence within yourself at a practice doing that. Because I know if somebody
Yeah,
tries to flat press me, I'm not ripping him across the table in a practice.
right.
I'm going to let them know, hey, I feel like 5% of pressure on my hand right now. You're not doing a very good job. You should probably stop.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I'm not going to, teach them the wrong, or teach them the rough way. Uh, you go to a tournament, it's going to be completely different.
Oh yeah. They're
I
gonna get
see so many new guys flop pressing or kings moving or trying to, do the Todd Hutchings just straight sideways, just going hard, don't worry about the hand, go sideways. No, you're not Todd Hutchings.
no.
It's not, you're not Michael
There's
Todd or
20 years
Devin. You
of
know?
building elbow integrity. We definitely have
Absolutely.
Bob, you know.
And look, and these guys are absolute animals within the sport, legends within the sport. They're still competing, of course, they're legends. But you look at these guys and they've had a lot of injuries leading up to where they're at.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you sit back, you think, well, why have they had these injuries? Well, probably because your body is not supposed to go into a bone lock. You're not supposed to fight from, the King's move is essentially a bone lock.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to put that kind of wear and tear on your arm for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And these pullers have made sacrifices for the sport. And I respect them, like crazy for that.
Hmm. But for new pullers, do not pull like these guys.
Absolutely
They're
not.
specialized athletes.
You
And
don't see a
with all sincerity and seriousness, they are specialized athletes. You know,
absolutely.
Just new guys pull. Just think fundamentals.
And
Just
the fundamentals work. The
oh yeah,
fundamentals will always work. You
yeah,
know, you can watch you can watch a second grader wrestle for a school, just wrestling. Then you can watch an Olympic level athlete, an Olympic level wrestler, do the exact same single leg with the exact same setup and be successful with it.
yeah,
He has worked that, drilled those fundamentals for years and it works.
yeah.
There's how did
I come back to a foundation. That's exactly what
yeah,
you. If you have a solid foundation, Jesus. If if you have a solid foundation, you are going to be more solid on the table. You know what I mean? If you have those fundamentals and you
absolutely.
know, okay, your basics, hip over, your fist to face, elbow to the belly button. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If you know how to stay strong in a safe environment, you know, you're going to be way better on the table than somebody that's out here trying to do this King's move with only 6 months of experience.
Right.
Come on.
I think if you look at the highest level match that we witnessed, and this is, people can argue this, whatever, but the highest level match that we just witnessed between Devin and Gennady, it was nothing but fundamental arm wrestling.
Yeah.
Nobody was doing any crazy kings moving. Nobody was doing anything, nobody was doing anything out of the norm. The reffing, it was kind of hard to watch that match. I didn't like it. I didn't like having to watch them restart 20, 30 times. But when they actually started arm wrestling, you saw a perfect example of fundamental arm wrestling within that match. And these guys are at the peak of the sport, aside from from Levon.
Well,
Those
you
guys are it.
know how important that shoulder forward was. You just talked about shoulder forward,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
what did you see? You know, Devin just boom, just doing that is
Yep.
so valuable versus here versus there.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
so
And it's crazy how the fundamentals being as effective as what they are, when you start looking at the way you train arm wrestling, from cupping to pronating to rising to supinating, they're all going to play a super huge part within the fundamentals. Don't go outside of that. Don't go doing crazy stuff. Don't try to become, some super athlete with a super unorthodox style on the arm wrestling table. You're either going to end up hurt or just, getting beat a lot. It's
yeah,
get really good at being, get really good at pulling outside, start getting really good at pulling inside, start getting good at pressing, start becoming a very versatile arm wrestler, and then start studying the sport so you can tell, what you're going to have to do in future matches, whatever.
yeah,
Start getting good at transitioning. The fundamentals are just overlooked big time now, and I don't get why we have people that are 6 months into the sport kings moving. It's a horrible thing.
right.
Trying to learn the hook currently and how to set up.
Yeah,
Josh Hunter.
butter.
Um, I would say just something that's super important. If you're trying to learn how to hook, then you really need to understand elbow positioning on the pad is huge, but you really need to start from the hand and wrist. Without hand and wrist control, you don't have a hook. So you want to focus on cupping, you want to focus on supination. Do not, and I cannot stress this enough, I see this so much, do not go palm up. When I say supinate, I don't mean go palm up. I mean slightly turning your wrist in, which is going to block their pronator, and you're starting a hook.
Yeah,
I see a lot of people that hook and right off the rip, they're bam. They're turning themselves palm up, and you're just putting yourself in a horrible spot.
yeah.
Unless you are 10 times stronger than that dude, you're getting beat.
Plus, you don't have any pronation engaged.
Absolutely not. You cannot pronate. You cannot rise. You cannot rotate. You cannot apply side pressure with anything other than your inner elbow, and it hurts a lot. So I would say, work on the cup, work on, supinating a little bit. And each time you can go a little bit more, but don't start off supinating like crazy. And I would say really learn how to pull, learn how to engage your lat, and then start worrying about where your elbow is going to be on the elbow pad. I can't tell you exactly where to start your elbow at because everybody's different. Some people have, longer arms. Some people have to start a little further back, or vice versa. Um,
Anytime
but really just drill that for
I
sure.
also is as soon as you start supinating a little bit like that, right? I I tend to try to have people start chopping,
Yeah,
with
that down pressure. Yep.
down pressure,
And,
and
and you have to apply that down
yeah,
pressure with the rotation simultaneously.
exactly. So
That's a
it's a
huge one.
side pressure like that, pinky down, rotation like that, because you're obviously gonna turn your opponent like this, doing that, and then
Yes.
every movement that you're doing, you're pulling back.
Yeah.
No matter what, you never stop pulling back. You never stop this motion. You never stop this motion. You never stop this motion. It
Yeah.
starts with this. You never stop doing that. You never stop doing this, and you never stop doing this until the ref says stop.
I think it's also super important that with that down pressure, you don't forget, do not dump your hand in the setup, do not lose your riser.
Correct.
And when you are creating that down pressure, you are doing that as you're, like I said, simultaneously dragging, of course, and chopping down on the pronator with that down pressure, and you're also rotating. It's once you get it down, it's super fluid. It's nice. It feels good. You know when you get the hook down because it feels
Oh
great.
yeah.
So you get into a war with somebody, then it hurts. But if
Mm.
you miss one of those key aspects of the hook, you're going to pay for it, and you're going to end up in bad positions every time you go to hook somebody who's just a little bit better than you. A lot of matches are one-sided, completely one-sided, all due to positioning issues. I don't think they have anything to do with strength.
Another thing too is people, they sleep on hip all the way to the right. You know,
Absolutely.
they sleep on that so much. Like people want, sometimes I see it, everybody will like be dropping their hips and stuff, and whatever. I mean, people are going to do whatever they want, but if you really want to get strong in a nice tight position, you got to have that hip over. Right hand
Creates a
pull,
wall.
got to have that hip or all the way over to the right, that arm all the way in here and all the way in here. Same,
Yeah.
left, obviously the opposite way, but
Because
you
at
know,
that point, within a hook, within a top roll, within a press, you're always trying to keep that height on your arm.
yeah,
You never want to start dropping, down.
no,
So you always want to stay high. And if you're able to get hip up to the table, create a wall, you're just putting
yeah,
yourself in a position, to finish and to win. And you're also kind of blocking your opponent from pulling you outside of your shoulder in that same way.
yeah,
You can transition from there, you can surge from there. I'm told I drop my shoulder too
yeah,
much too.
dude, I can't wait till
Yeah,
I get the table time with Bunner. He's
yeah,
such a
absolutely.
good, and I'd love to get a training session in with him.
And and again, everybody is built a little differently, so not everybody's hook is going to look the exact same. But the fundamental of a hook, I think it all needs to be taught about the same way. And then everybody's going to have their own small exception. You know, if your
Well,
hip can't reach the table, you're probably not going to be
yeah,
hipping up, but you'll be, the table might be a little higher. You
right.
might have some, some bruised skin on your side there instead of on your hip, but it's the same concept. And yeah, I think, hand positioning is huge. Height is huge. Putting yourself in a good spot, creating that wall. All of that is just very important in the hook. A lot of people think it's just turn your wrist in and pull.
Yeah.
It's crazy,
Just
but
see many, as soon as they go into the hook, they just do that and then go like that, and then oh boy, there goes that owner.
oh, there it is. I've
Yeah,
seen a lot. I mean, you see a lot of UCL tears, that way too. Just from people slamming sideways in a horrible position.
yep,
Um, I think even if you're a really good hooker, your pronation needs to be like your rise and your pronation needs to be just as high of a priority as your supination. Without that, you have no rotation within the hook, and without that, you have no way of pinning that dude within the hook. You can go sideways all you want, but unless you're able to, start chopping the tree down, you're just pushing it.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
and it's not beneficial.
Well, I think as soon as somebody gets into the hook, they're so focused on a defensive position. Okay, I'm going to get
Yeah.
here, just going to stop and I'm going to hold them. But they forget to start doing this,
Yep.
and then do this, and then do this, and then do that. So it's a lot of, man, I just see it so much as people forget what to do.
Absolutely. Especially at events, especially at tournaments.
Oh
If
yeah.
there's
And
one
we've
cue I
we've
always
done
tell
it.
people,
We've done it too.
oh, big time.
Oh, what am I
I
thinking?
just recently did it. I mean, I lost a match to Daniel Worley, and I've watched his matches 1,000 times, and I see myself getting a little further and further away from the table. And and it happens. It's a high level match. I've been arm wrestling for almost 4 years now, and something as small as staying tight to the table is a cue that, you know, Doug was telling me to do it all night. I just
Yeah,
wasn't doing it.
yeah,
And that's another thing with testing yourself. If you gotta go around, you gotta pull a bunch of different people.
yeah,
You got to get different feels. Some people you're able to kind of get away with being a little sloppy on your setup, on your form, your technique, the fundamentals. And some people you can't. Some people you can't let just a hair difference. It can make or break the match.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think the one cue I like telling people a lot, and this is a cue that helped me out when I first started arm wrestling, was that is that your pointer finger knuckle, if you will. That being close to your face is always going to be good.
Oh yeah.
That
It's the,
going away from your face and that going outside of your shoulder, bad.
yeah,
So, if you keep that index knuckle, pointer finger knuckle, whatever, if you keep that facing you, not facing you, but you know what I'm trying to get at here, close to your face, in front of your shoulder, whether you are hooking somebody, applying down pressure, pronating, because there's a way to over pronate and overly, take somebody's hand. If you're out here,
yeah, exactly.
you don't. I don't know anybody who's pulling very strong out there.
No,
It's
no
there's a
Canadian,
lot.
you
What
know,
is it?
Canadian goose fight where they're
Yeah, I mean,
like
all,
that.
all it takes is for one person to just get their knuckles a little more towards them, and the match is over.
Yeah. Oh,
But it's little cues like this that I had to learn the hard way. And another reason why I love watching film, because every single match that I lost, I watched whether I was in a hook, knuckles away from me.
yeah,
Whether I was top rolling somebody or getting pressed, and this happened to me when I pulled Tim Lewis in that super match a couple years ago. Um, my knuckles are out here. If I would have had my knuckles towards the pin pad, shoulder behind my hand, I would have been in a great spot to finish that match.
yeah.
I usually remember what to do afterwards. Yeah, that seems like it's always when when the light bulb really starts to flicker off. Like, hey, I could have beat
Dude,
that guy. I know what I needed to do.
Tony be a good training partner. He's another real strong big boy for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
Tony Stansberry. Is he from around you?
No, he's up by Toledo area, I do believe, or
Yeah,
some
that's not too far.
northwest.
Tony Stansberry. What major city are you near? If you're still in here. I bet you are. You just commented
He
that, but
he does, if I remember correctly, he's a uh, semi truck mechanic. I think is what it was. I could be
okay. Yeah. Uh Diesel mechanic. Yep.
yeah, mechanic. I think that's what it was, but yeah, he's been to one or two of my events and smoked the amateurs, and he had just started.
Right.
I was like, oh dang, yeah, yeah. I think he went to oh, what is it? One of Johnny's practices up there, I do believe.
Okay. Was that like Bellevue,
Yeah, something. He's
Belpre,
Victoria,
Bell?
outside of Finley. I don't
Okay.
know either of those places.
Oh, Fostoria. Yeah, I had a fight up in Fostoria. It's actually where I dislocated and tore my shoulder up. Was
Oh,
in
gee.
Fostoria. Yeah. Yeah, it's not, I don't think that's too crazy for a couple hours for sure, but I don't like the Fostoria Hospital. I'm not going to try to hate on them, but they yeah, they caused me a lot of well, they cost me a lot of money, you know? Just put my shoulder back in, let me go home. Come on now. You don't have to
Really?
charge me for that. Just
Oh, for everything.
man, I
Um,
get it. That's the way the world works, but good lord.
dude,
They gave me 3 shots of pain medication. I said, I don't need this. Just it hurts really bad. It's gonna hurt really bad when you reset it, and it's gonna hurt really bad tomorrow. The pain medication's temporary. You know, I don't need the $3,000 shots. I
yeah,
don't
exactly.
want to pay for them.
Somebody just told me something. They went to the ER, and for like 2 or 3 bags of saline solution because they were dehydrated, they charged them like $500.
Ridiculous. I'll never understand this. As I was sitting in the lobby with my friend Logan, holding my arm, you know, because my shoulder's dislocated. He's holding my arm kind of out here like a sling. And as I'm standing there and they're asking me like what my first name is, my last name, they want to see my ID, they want me to sign in. I'm like, no. I'm like, we can do all this when I'm in a bed, you know, somewhere not standing in the middle of your lobby. It was just after a fight. I had blood on my face. You know, I was a wreck. Like, I won the fight, but I did not look like I won that fight. You know, I'm in the hospital, and
Right.
you know, a lot of chitter chatter
Jeez.
shouldn't have been going on when somebody's standing in your lobby with a dislocated shoulder. But
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a couple recent run-ins at the ER, and it's not where I like to be for sure.
no, absolutely not.
Not where I like to be. If I got to go there, it's costing a bunch of money, and it's it's not good.
I almost feel like I'm a burden to the employees when I'm there too. Like, oh, what are you here for? Like, man, like I don't want to be here, believe it or not. Like,
If I can not be here, trust me, I don't want to be here.
yeah, I would much rather be at home right now, um, but I'm here. So, but yeah,
Anyway, all right. Well, that's pretty much gonna wrap it up. Um, we have some more fun topics coming up on future episodes of the Winning Side podcast. I want to thank my co-host Cody Smith for being here tonight. Thank you so much for the good conversation, sir.
yes, sir. Thanks for having me once again. It's always a blast getting on the podcast, get to
Yep.
interact with everybody. Congrats, Cody. What a
Yep.
match coming up. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. It's a biggest match of my career for sure. I'm not gonna, well, I guess I can't say it's the biggest match of my career. It's one of the biggest matches of my career. I can't really discredit any other matches I've had in the past, but where we're at right now, super, super big match, super stoked.
Up. Both guys are in the chat. I want to see this match. Obviously, after these guys get some training in, I want to see Adam Finley versus Colby Eaker. Right on. They're both in the chat. This is a match that I think would be kind of entertaining at 6 months in the sport. Not, you know, right at this moment, but
You
these
guys
guys
just got put on the
these
spot.
guys are practically they look like twins almost. It's wild.
Really?
Yeah. Colby's might have a little bit more size on Adam, but man, I really think that'd be a fun match because they both look like they would go in the exact same spot. They're roughly about the same size, and I think it'd just be a fun match. So
There it
you
is.
got that
Colby and Adam, you
event.
guys are going to be getting after it. Colby said he's down, so Adam, it's up to you
He's
to.
already on it. Colby
I mean, you
loves the
can't
match.
back out now. You got put on the spot by the host of the podcast. You're
Yeah,
you're in the
exactly.
chat. I mean, it's happening now for sure,
Oh
whether
yeah,
you want it to or not. But I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody telling me good luck.
yeah,
Super focused, super excited, super stoked. Can't wait to get out there. And at the end of the day, you know, of course, winning is the goal. Winning is always the goal. But at the end of the day, just super blessed to have this opportunity, and
yeah,
you know,
for
really
sure.
excited to be able to display
A lot of people are
hard
unwilling
work and
and put themselves out there. because they feel like, oh well, if I don't have um the percentage, if it's not on me, then I'm not willing to take the match. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah, no.
it's really nice that uh you're stepping out, to take on the harder opponent for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the only way you get better. Whether I go into this match and, win 3-0, lose 3-0, win 3-2, lose 3-2, regardless of what happens, pulling this high caliber of a match, there's going to be something to learn from it. And at the end of the day,
For sure.
that's what we're looking for is longevity within the sport and just the amount of matches that you have, all the different learning experiences. Wins and losses, they're all just learning experiences until you're at the top of the sport on that main stage, where Devin and Levana is. Every single match you have is a learning experience. If you're not learning from it, you're doing something wrong. So
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate everybody being here. We got Adam and Colby in the chat.
they're
They're
going at it.
in. Attaboys. I'll set it up for one of my events coming up this summer. Um, we appreciate everybody being here. And I want to say, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, pray to him today. Repent of your sins. Come to know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. I appreciate everybody being here, and hope everybody has a wonderful night, and God bless.
Absolutely.
You guys have a great night.